Hi everyone, welcome to Module 2, Lesson 2, IDE and Debugging. Why do we need a debugger? Why do we need an IDE? Well, as we are human, we tend to make mistakes sometimes. We declare a variable and sometimes we misspell them, and our IDE will actually show us these errors. As for the debugging, while our code is running, variables are changing, things are happening, and we can't always see or determine why something is not working as we intended it to be. We can use an IDE and we can debug our code with some breakpoints, and we can inspect variables. We can see what the value of that variable is at runtime and see if the value that we want in that variable is there when the application's executed. We can do some terminal debugging where we can query with variables, or we can slice them, or we can change them while the application is running and to see what the effect's going to be on our application. Let's have a look at some debugging techniques. Back to Visual Studio Code. Let's look at some debugging. As said, we're going to need debugging to debug our code or to find some errors in it. So let's start by creating a debugging file for our example. Let's start with a normal variable, and we can call this variable A equals test. Variable B equals, and let's make this a number, 99. Now, to check our variables to see what they are, we can print variable A and we can print variable B. This is an example that we've seen throughout the course so far. And what happened is we took the variable A test and we printed that there, and variable B, and we printed it there as 99. Now, let's say we do a breakpoint. Now, to do a breakpoint, on the line here, the edge of your text editor, your IDE editor, you can left click there, and it will create a breakpoint with this little red dot. Or you can highlight a line and press F9, and it will also highlight the dot there. You can also go run and toggle breakpoint, and it will do the little dot there. What does that dot mean? When we run the code through the IDE, through our Visual Studio Code, debug mode, run, start debugging, when the compiler gets to this line, it will stop the code from running and break right there, stop at that line. Let's see what that looks like, and let's see what we can do from there. All right, so this yellow line and this little arrow here means the application, our Python interpreter, stopped here, and it's going to wait for us. Now, a couple of things have happened. On this left-hand side here, you can see variable A is test and variable B is 99. So up until this point here, our variables gets the values that we assigned them when we started our application. We can change this to anything we want. Test. We've changed our variable values here now. So what's going to happen if we run this code from here on out? So I can click this little play continue button here, and it's not test and 99 anymore. We changed the value of our variables while the application was running. This is a simple example of what we can do in debug mode with breakpoints. These are simple variables. Let's create some more complex variables. So let's create variable A, and let's make it a dictionary. And remember, a dictionary is key value pairs, so we can use the same example as system A, and we call that delete, and system 2, and we can create that as append, and system3, and let's just call that enter. If we print this, sorry, I just deleted it. If we print variable a, we'll see we get our dictionary. Right here. But if we stop our code execution, we'll get some more information. We'll see our dictionary variable a lot clearer. So the code's going to stop here. Here's our variables. There's variable a. And if we click down, we'll see sys1 is delete, sys2 is append, and sys3 is enter. Now let's say we want to test our code to see if we can access sys2. Now to do that, click on the debug console right here. And if we type in var a, we see we get our variable a right here. Now let's say we want to see variable a and we want to access sys2. It's append. So here we can test some of our commands while the code is running. We can say, we can see if we can var a append, and let's see if we want to do system 4, and let's add test and see if that works. You see, we have an error there. We can't do that with a variable a. Let's see if we can do variable a. Let's see if we can do a delete of variable a. And the key we want to delete is, let's make it sys2. We didn't get an error. Let's see here on the left hand side, our variable, our dictionary changed from sys1, sys2 is not there, sys3. So that command we can use in our code to remove a variable. Let's say we want to change sys1. How do we do that? Well, var a, and the key that we want to change is sys1, and we want to say this is awesome. As we can see on the left hand side, this key's value has changed. This is the variable that's changed at runtime. If we execute this code again, our variable is going to have the same values that's there. This is just to show you that you can test commands, run some things while your code is running to see if what you intend for that variable to be or to change to can happen. You can test commands as well. For instance, you can say here, print var a, and it will actually print the value for you here. So if you're not sure if a command works, or if you're not sure how a command will react in your application, you can test it from a debugging point of view while your code is in breakpoint. This looks simple. We have 2 lines of code, but imagine you have 100 lines of code and you're not sure what happens where, and you have your statements and your functions that we're going to look at later. It gets complex to try and figure out what's happening at runtime. Breakpoints, debugging mode is a great way to check that. Another thing that you can do is you can add, if you right click on a variable, you can add it to a watch list. Add to watch. So on the left hand side here, you'll see your variable that is actually there is now on a watch list. So when you execute your code, so let's just restart the code here, you'll see that your variable, your watch, will have that variable in there. It's not available. We removed our breakpoint. Let's just run that again. F5. When it gets to the breakpoint, the watch will show you what's in that variable at that point in your application, as you can see here. That's what it is. So you can use watches as well to check your variables.